On a quiet spring day in 2011, Rome's most storied avenue buzzed with rumors. Bvlgari, the iconic jeweler of Via dei Condotti, had just been sold, not to another Italian dynasty, not to a discreet investor. The new owner was LVMH, the French luxury giant. For over a century, Bvlgari had symbolized Roman elegance and Mediterranean audacity. That morning, as the news broke, many in Italy felt a chill. A piece of their history had changed hands. The deal was monumental, over $5 billion, an astonishing sum even for the world of luxury. But behind the headlines, questions lingered. How did a family of Greek origin become the face of Italian glamour? How had they built a name rivaling the oldest houses of Europe? And why, after all these years, were the Bvlgari family finally letting go? For decades, their name had been etched on the tiaras of princesses and the wrists of movie stars. Bvlgari was more than jewelry. It was Rome, reimagined in gemstones and gold. Yet on that day, ownership slipped from the descendants of Sotirios Vulgaris, once a humble silversmith from Epirus, Greece. Rome itself seemed to pause. The city, always proud of its traditions, felt the loss deeply. Interviews with stunned employees spoke of pride and sadness. In the salons where aristocrats once lingered, whispers filled the air. Was this the end of an era, or just another chapter in Bvlgari's extraordinary saga? The Bvlgari family kept silent. Their legacy had survived wars, scandals, and the tides of fashion. But a sale to LVMH was different. To many Italians, it was as if an ancient temple had been sold to strangers. Outside the flagship store, photographers waited for a sign from the Bvlgari heirs. None came. For all the wealth and spectacle, it was a moment of quiet reckoning. Rome city center pulsed with activity, but inside the boutique, time seemed to stand still. Display cases gleamed under the lights. Opulent emeralds, fiery rubies, and Bvlgari's signature serpenti watches glittered, as if defying the news. For generations, these treasures had been touched by the hands of the family. Now, corporate executives from Paris would oversee the legacy. What forced the Bvlgari family to this decision? The luxury world had changed. Competition from Asia and the Middle East had become fierce. New fortunes chased old brands. The pressure to expand, faster, wider, higher never relented. Even the most powerful family businesses felt it. To some, the sale was simply strategy, a way to ensure Bvlgari's place among the global elite. To others, it signaled exhaustion. A family battered by internal strife and the demands of a relentless industry, choosing to step back. But Rome remembered everything. Decades earlier, Bvlgari had dazzled the world with bold colors and fearless creativity. They didn't just follow trends, they made them. Their clients were legends: Elizabeth Taylor, Audrey Hepburn, Sophia Loren. Their jewels, worn at parties, on sets, and at secret rendezvous, became symbols of desire and ambition. Bvlgari was part of the city's heartbeat. The sale was front-page news. Articles dissected every detail. TV anchors debated the future of Italian luxury. Would Bvlgari lose its identity, or would LVMH's resources secure its future? Some insiders whispered about family disputes. Others pointed to the changing landscape of global fashion. What was clear? Nothing would be the same. For Paolo, Nicola, and Gianni Bvlgari, the deal marked the end of a personal era. 3 generations had poured heart and vision into the company. Their ancestors had crossed borders, survived turmoil, and reinvented themselves in Rome. Now, their fate was no longer their own. The family's silence became as much a statement as any press release. Ordinary Romans, too, felt the loss. Some saw it as a necessary evolution. Others called it a betrayal. For the craftsmen working behind closed doors, the change brought uncertainty. Would the designs still bear the soul of the city, or would Bvlgari become just another logo on a Parisian balance sheet? As the sun set behind the domes, the city's ancient stones seemed to watch, impassive. Bvlgari's windows glowed, inviting as ever. Inside were relics of love, ambition, and artistry. Outside, the world moved on, but the question remained. How had a Greek silversmith's dream become so entwined with Rome's identity? And why, after decades of triumph, did his descendants give it up? The answer lay in a story of migration, ambition, rivalry, and reinvention. This was not just about jewels. It was about legacy, power, and the price of greatness. In boardrooms and ateliers, on red carpets and in family kitchens, the Bvlgari legend had been written and rewritten. Now, a new chapter had begun. As night settled on Rome, the question persisted. What did this victory, this global expansion, truly cost the family who had forged it all? Chapter 2, Soterios, From Epirus to Eternal City. Epirus, 1857. The shadows of war and unrest stretched across the northern mountains of Greece. For generations, the Bvlgaris family had made their living as silversmiths, but the land itself seemed to grow more hostile with each passing year. Violence erupted between empires, borders shifted, and entire villages vanished overnight. Soterios Bvlgaris, a young man with skilled hands and restless eyes, watched his world unravel. He understood that safety and prosperity would not come to him in Epirus. At just 18, he packed the tools of his trade. He said goodbye to everything familiar. Under a sky heavy with cloud, Soterios stepped into exile. His journey would span villages, forests, and ancient roads battered by time. There were border guards and bribes. There were nights spent sleeping in the open, with only the sound of wind for company. He moved through the Balkans, following rumors of cities where a craftsman could thrive. Each town offered just enough hope to keep him moving. He made and sold small silver trinkets to pay his way, his fingers learning new styles with every stop. First came a shop in Corfu, then a failed attempt in Naples. Each setback threatened to break him, but Soterios would not turn back. Hunger and hardship became companions. Through it all, his ambition only hardened. Finally, in the 1880s, he arrived in Rome. The city was a world apart, ancient, chaotic, dazzling, a stage for emperors and outcasts alike. Here, fortune felt just out of reach, but never impossible. Rome was also a city in transition, brimming with new wealth and restless energy. The old ways were colliding with modern ambition. Soterios rented a modest space on Via Sistina. It was little more than a stall, but it was his. He worked from dawn until after dark, his tools clinking softly in the back room. At first, he sold what he knew, simple silver buckles, spoons, and ornaments. Customers were scarce. His Greek accent made him an outsider, but in every piece, he carved a story, the memory of mountains and struggle. Word spread slowly but surely. Romans admired the crisp lines of his silverwork. Tourists, drawn by the city's ancient ruins, brought coins and curiosity. Soterios welcomed everyone with a polite bow and eyes that missed nothing. He was learning the rhythms and secrets of his adopted home. The shop grew busier. He hired a helper. Soon, the sign above the door read Soterio Bvlgari, a nod to the way Italians pronounced his name. He kept the old Greek roots, but let them blend into Roman soil. Each day, the city worked on him as much as he worked to master it. By 1884, Soterios saw a future. It was precarious but real. He moved to a larger storefront and expanded his wares. The new shop was brighter, with glass cases reflecting the morning sun. Inside, the air always smelled of metal and polish. Couples, travelers, and locals stopped to admire the filigree designs. Still, he felt the weight of uncertainty. Rome's streets could be dangerous for outsiders, and business could vanish in a flash with a change in political winds. But Soterios had grown up with uncertainty. It no longer frightened him. He turned each fear into discipline and every setback into invention. His family gradually joined him. His wife, Eleni, arrived with their young sons, Constantino and Giorgio. The boys watched their father work, mesmerized by the transformation of raw metal into something precious. Soterios taught them the value of patience and the importance of honoring the craft. For him, every mistake was a lesson, every sale a small victory. There were lean years and small triumphs. Bills piled up, and some nights ended in quiet despair. But the shop survived. Each morning, Soterios unlocked the doors and let in the light, determined to prove he belonged. He began to experiment, drawing on both Greek heritage and Roman trends. New techniques blended with ancient motifs. He traced the shapes of Byzantine mosaics and Roman coins, always searching for a style that was his own. Rome in the late 19th century was a crossroads of culture and commerce. Railways brought travelers from across Europe. Grand hotels and theaters sprang up beside ruined temples. The wealthy came in search of both history and luxury. Soterios watched, listened, and adapted. He realized these visitors wanted souvenirs that felt eternal, not fleeting. He responded with silver belts and brooches adorned with mythical creatures, intricate leaves, and bold geometric patterns. Each item whispered a promise of endurance. His reputation grew. Aristocrats and artists became regulars, drawn by both the quality and the quiet charisma of the shopkeeper. Yet in every success, Soterios felt the push of history at his back. He had outlasted the violence that once drove him from Greece, but peace was never permanent. He saved every lira, invested in better tools, and taught his sons not just how to make jewelry, but how to survive. By the turn of the century, something changed. The shop was no longer just an escape from hardship. It was becoming a destination. Tourists carried news of Bvlgari back to their own cities, and the name began to mean something beyond silver. Soterios sensed the world was opening up, and so were the expectations for his family. He started to step back, just slightly, and watched Constantino and Giorgio at work. The boys were not content with small trinkets. They doodled in sketchbooks, dreaming of brighter stones, bolder shapes, and new materials. Some evenings, Soterios would catch them arguing about design or daring each other to imagine what the shop could become. He recognized the same hunger that had once pulled him across borders, but his sons' ambition was different. They were Roman in spirit, shaped by a city that worshipped spectacle and reinvention. Soterios saw that survival was no longer enough. The challenge now would be to create something lasting, something that could outlive all of them. For the first time, he felt pride mixed with a hint of fear. He wondered if his sons would preserve the humility he had fought to maintain, or would they risk everything for glory? Under the soft lamps of the shop, he weighed those questions silently. In 1905, Soterios made a decision that would change everything. He took a risk, moving the business to Via dei Condotti, the beating heart of Roman luxury. It was a bet on the future and on the next generation. Under a new sign, Bvlgari was ready to face Rome itself, not as outsiders, but as contenders. Soterios Vvlgaris, once a rootless craftsman fleeing violence, now stood at the crossroads of memory and ambition. The city was changing. His family was changing. The future was no longer just about making ends meet, but about making a mark. He realized that one day soon, it would be his sons who would shape the destiny of the name Bvlgari. And as he locked up the shop that first night on Via dei Condotti, the streets echoed with footsteps, laughter, and possibility. On those old stones, the story was only beginning. Chapter 3, Brothers in Business. Constantino and Giorgio take the reins. Inside the newly opened store on Via dei Condotti, two young men move with quiet urgency. Constantino, the elder son, studies every display case as if searching for hidden flaws. Giorgio, his younger brother, sketches in the margins of an order book, his pencil looping in restless spirals. They are as different as Rome's marble columns and its winding alleyways, one shaped by patience, the other by impulse. Constantino speaks little, but his gaze is sharp. He thinks in years, not hours. His mind turns over costs, inventories, and the delicate balance between ambition and risk. He is cautious, steady, and precise. Giorgio is his opposite. His hands are always in motion, smoothing velvet, testing the weight of gold chains, plucking colored stones from trays and holding them up to the light. He dreams in color. He pushes for change. Their father watches from the doorway. He recognizes the tension between them. He also knows that tension is power if harnessed well. Sotirios, the founder, is aging. In late nights at the workbench, he finds his hands tire easily. Still, he refuses to let go completely. He guides his sons with a mixture of old-world discipline and wary hope. This transition is quiet, almost invisible to outsiders, but it will prove decisive. Rome at the turn of the century is blooming into a modern metropolis. The city is a crossroads for artists, aristocrats, and travelers seeking beauty. On Via dei Condotti, Bvlgari faces competition not only from Italians, but also from French and Swiss jewelers. Here, reputation is everything. Survival depends on both tradition and reinvention. Constantino's instincts lean toward the former. He believes in what has worked for decades: careful craftsmanship, classic forms, and a reputation for honesty. Giorgio, though, wants to set Bvlgari apart. He studies Roman mosaics, Byzantine icons, and the bright hues of Mediterranean markets. He dreams of pieces with daring colors and bold settings, jewelry that announces itself in a room. This difference sparks arguments, sometimes loud, sometimes whispered. Constantino worries about the family's money. He fears overreaching and losing everything. Giorgio pushes for more ambitious designs and new techniques. He is not afraid to fail. Their father referees, sometimes siding with one, sometimes the other. But slowly, a fragile partnership emerges. Their first experiment is simple, a new kind of necklace, inspired by ancient Roman coins. Giorgio designs it, fusing Greek and Roman motifs in a way not seen before in Rome. Constantino ensures the gold is pure, the stones unflawed, the price fair. The piece does not sell immediately, but when it finally leaves the shop, it is to a foreign aristocrat, a woman who admires the fusion of old and new. Word spreads. Bvlgari, once known for silver trinkets, is gaining a reputation for originality. More clients come, curious to see what the brothers will do next. Giorgio, emboldened by these small victories, begins to experiment with cabochon-cut gemstones, rounded and glossy, unlike the precise facets favored by French jewelers. He pairs emeralds with amethysts, sapphires with rubies, inventing unlikely color combinations. Rome's elite notice. Some are scandalized by the boldness. Others are entranced. Constantino keeps the accounts meticulous. Every experiment is weighed against the day's receipts. Giorgio sketches late into the night, filling notebooks with ideas that might never see the light of day. But the creative energy in the shop is unmistakable. The brothers fight, reconcile, and fight again, always returning to the workbench. They are learning that division can be as valuable as unity if it is managed well. The Via dei Condotti store becomes a meeting place for artists, poets, and wealthy travelers. Some come to browse, others to gossip. A few buy, drawn by the novelty and audacity of Bvlgari's new work. The store's interior is simple, practical, almost bare. But in the glass cases, color explodes: turquoise, coral, diamonds, and gold, arranged in ways that defy tradition. Sotirios, watching his sons, feels both pride and unease. He remembers the hunger that drove him from Greece to Italy, the fear of failure that shaped every decision. Now, his sons are creating something he never imagined, jewelry that defies the rules. The shop is prospering, but the risks are greater than ever. The brothers' partnership is not without its crises. There are months when sales slump and suppliers grow impatient. Competitors whisper that Bvlgari has lost touch with Rome's sensibility. Constantino insists on returning to simpler designs, at least for a while. Giorgio resists, arguing that the future belongs to the bold. Their arguments echo after hours, long after the shutters are closed. Despite the setbacks, they do not give up. Each learns to trust, if not always agree with, the other's instincts. For every failed experiment, there is a breakthrough, a necklace that draws crowds, a ring that is copied by rivals. The store's reputation grows, slowly at first, then steadily. One afternoon, a wealthy Russian noblewoman enters the shop. She is searching for something unlike anything in Paris. Giorgio shows her a brooch set with an enormous sapphire, ringed with coral and diamonds. She buys it on the spot. The sale makes the rounds of Rome's high society within days. Bvlgari is no longer just a local curiosity. It is becoming a name known in foreign capitals. Constantino expands their sources of gemstones, forging relationships with dealers from India, Burma, and Brazil. He negotiates hard, refusing to accept flaws or inflated prices. Giorgio experiments with new materials, including platinum and enamel, giving the pieces a modern edge. Together, they create a new visual language for the brand, one that blends Greek heritage, Roman grandeur, and Mediterranean color. By 1905, the gamble on Via dei Condotti is paying off. The brothers have transformed their father's small business into a gathering place for Rome's elite and a laboratory for new ideas. The store becomes their stage and their crucible. Each success validates their approach. Each failure pushes them to adapt. Outside, the city hums with the noise of carriages and the rumors of a changing world. Inside, Bvlgari's windows glow with the promise of something different. Travelers from London, Vienna, and St. Petersburg begin to ask for pieces in the new Roman style. For the first time, Bvlgari's designs are not merely imitating others, they are setting the tone. At night, when the final customers leave, the brothers walk through the empty store. Constantino checks the ledgers once more before locking them away. Giorgio places a half-finished necklace on the workbench, promising himself to finish it by dawn. Their father lingers a moment longer, tracing his name on the shop sign with a finger roughened by years of work. They do not know what the future holds, but in those first months at Via dei Condotti, something unmistakable takes root, a partnership fueled by difference, daring, and the refusal to settle. The brothers have learned to work together, not in spite of their differences, but because of them. In a city built on legends, two sons of a Greek silversmith have begun to write their own. The doors of the shop close softly behind them. The world outside is waiting, but inside, the real transformation has only just begun. Chapter 4: The Roman Revolution, Reinventing Luxury. The 1930s arrive in Rome, draped in shadows and gold. On Via dei Condotti, the Bvlgari brothers sense the old world shifting beneath their feet. The echoes of ancient Rome rumble through the city, tempting them with new ideas and new dangers. For decades, Bvlgari has been known for its Greek-inspired silver, but silver alone cannot satisfy the ambitions that pulse through the family's veins. Giorgio and Constantino argue in hushed voices after closing time. One believes in tradition, the other dreams of something riskier. Both understand what is at stake. To stand still is to wither. To change is to gamble everything. Outside, the city is tense. Economic uncertainty makes every decision feel dangerous. Yet inside the store, the brothers chase color. They study Roman mosaics, draw inspiration from imperial villas, and dare to imagine jewelry not as quiet adornment, but as a declaration. The world remembers Rome's grandeur. Why shouldn't their jewels echo its boldness? It begins with a single piece, a necklace heavy with gold and punctuated by radiant cabochon gemstones. Not diamonds, not the icy sparkle of Northern Europe, but stones pulsing with Mediterranean fire, sapphires, rubies, emeralds, amethysts, even turquoise. Unusual, vibrant, and unmistakably Roman. The first reaction comes quickly. A longtime client stares at the necklace in shock. She cannot decide if it is beautiful or blasphemous. The brothers wait in silence. Then, almost shyly, she asks if she may try it on. When she leaves, she wears the necklace out the door and into the Roman night. Word spreads. The city's elite begin to crave what once seemed outrageous. Bvlgari's new style is bold, architectural, and deeply colored. The old silver gleams in the display cases, but it no longer draws the crowds. The city, hungry for hope, restless for change, embraces the drama. Other jewelers whisper that Bvlgari has gone mad. What is jewelry without diamonds? Who wears rubies with turquoise, emeralds set alongside gold so heavy it feels like armor? The brothers listen, but press on. They sense that tradition, left unchallenged, becomes a prison. Boldness, however, breeds risk. Each new design represents an investment of time and money. Each gemstone, purchased on speculation, could languish unsold. Yet the gamble pays off. Tourists return from Paris and London, asking to see the Roman jewels. Celebrities begin to appear, drawn by the flavors of old empire and new rebellion. Within a few years, Bvlgari's style is unmistakable. Wide necklaces curve across collarbones, echoing the Roman mosaics that have survived centuries of storms. Rings are thick and sculptural, cabochons reflecting the Mediterranean sun. Brooches shimmer in deep, saturated hues. Constantino walks through the city's ancient ruins at dawn, sketchbook in hand. He draws columns, archways, bits of broken marble, anything that might inspire a new design. Giorgio haunts the markets, speaking with stone dealers and goldsmiths, searching for the next brilliant color. At home, the family debates each bold step. Their father, Sotirios, is older now. He listens to their arguments from the comfort of his chair. Sometimes he shakes his head, uneasy with the distance from their Greek roots. Other times, he smiles quietly, remembering his own leap of faith decades earlier, crossing the sea to Rome. Boldness brings them fortune, but also new pressures. Their clientele is changing. Hollywood stars drift through Rome, hungry for the city's forbidden pleasures and for jewels unlike any they've seen in Paris or New York. Aristocrats, restless beneath Mussolini's regime, use Bvlgari's creations as silent rebellion, wearing color as a statement of life in a world turning gray. The brothers struggle to keep up with demand. Their jewelers work late, hunched over sketches and half-finished settings. The sound of hammers on gold fills the back rooms. Invoices stack up. The risk grows with every new collection. It is during this frenetic era that Bvlgari's most iconic design emerges. The serpenti, a sinuous snake of gold, coiled around the wrist or neck, biting its own tail. Inspired by the ancient symbol of eternity and renewal, it is a technical marvel. Each segment must be articulated by hand, each scale polished to a mirror shine. When they first reveal the serpenti, reactions are divided. Some clients are seduced by the snake's mystery, its promise of transformation. Others recoil, unsettled by its dangerous beauty. But the Bvlgari brothers know they have struck gold, literally and metaphorically. The serpenti becomes a sensation. Movie stars wear it on the red carpet. Socialites order custom versions, inscribed with secret initials or set with forbidden stones. For Bvlgari, the snake is more than an ornament, it is the brand's new skin. But even as the business thrives, the world darkens. War looms over Europe, its shadow lengthening across the Tiber. Gold grows scarce. Precious stones become harder to find, smuggled across borders at great risk. The store's gleaming windows are sometimes shuttered, their usual glow dimmed by uncertainty. The family faces new dangers, both outside and within. In private, arguments flare. Should they conserve what they have built, or invest every lira in new designs, betting that peace will return? Some nights, the brothers walk the city's empty streets, haunted by a feeling that everything could be lost in an instant. Yet crisis breeds creativity. To survive, Bvlgari must balance caution with audacity. They secretly acquire gemstones whenever possible, using contacts built over decades. Old gold is melted down and reborn as new pieces. Designs grow even bolder, less out of confidence and more out of necessity. Each jewel is a small act of defiance. Clients arrive quietly, buying jewels not just for adornment, but as safe havens, valuable, portable, and easy to hide. The store becomes a sanctuary of color in a monochrome world. For a brief moment, beauty becomes a kind of resistance. The turmoil outside tests the family's unity. The brothers disagree fiercely, but necessity keeps them together. Rome itself seems to hold its breath, waiting for the storm to pass. In these years, Bvlgari's identity is forged in fire and uncertainty. What began as a leap of faith becomes a survival tactic and ultimately a new tradition. By the time war truly descends, the Bvlgari name means something different. Not just Greek silver, not even just Roman color, but resilience, a refusal to break, a willingness to reinvent. As darkness falls over Europe, the brothers face their next challenge. Will their vision endure, or will the storm sweep away everything they have built? For now, inside the shop, the light still burns. Each jewel gleams with hope, defiance, and a question that only the future can answer. Chapter 5: Hollywood on the Tiber, the glamour years. The 1950s arrive in Rome like a cinematic dream. War's shadows slowly recede. The city awakens to a new rhythm, optimistic, electric, glamorous. It's the era of La Dolce Vita. Directors and actors from Hollywood descend on Rome, drawn by Cinecittà Studios and the promise of something untamed. Paparazzi swarm the Spanish Steps. Headlines whisper about wild nights and secret affairs. In the midst of this sparkling chaos, one address stands out: Via dei Condotti, number 10. Bvlgari's flagship glows beneath the Mediterranean sun. It is more than a jewelry store now. It is a stage, a gathering place, a legend in the making. Inside, the Bvlgaris sense an opportunity. They know how to capture attention. They understand the silent language of desire. When actors and aristocrats wander in, some curious, some searching for escape, Bvlgari is ready, not with restraint but with audacity. Jewelers behind the counter lay out daring, colorful necklaces. Emeralds, sapphires, rubies, and diamonds gleam in unexpected combinations. Gold is warm and heavy, sculpted with Roman confidence. There is nothing timid here. Each piece is a proclamation. This is what Roman glamour feels like. Word travels quickly through elite circles. Elizabeth Taylor, in Rome to film Cleopatra, discovers Bvlgari's treasures. She returns again and again, drawn by the brightness of the jewels and the thrill of the city. On breaks from shooting, she slips away to Via dei Condotti. Sometimes Richard Burton accompanies her. Sometimes he buys her gifts sparked by whispered promises and tempestuous arguments. The press catches glimpses. The world reads about diamond-studded romances in the tabloids. Bvlgari, once a quiet secret, is now irresistible headline material. But Elizabeth Taylor is never the only star. Audrey Hepburn strolls through the shop, elegant and understated. Sophia Loren arrives, radiating Italian sensuality. Gina Lollobrigida, Anna Magnani, Ingrid Bergman each find something different in the cases. To some, Bvlgari offers sanctuary from relentless attention. To others, it is a badge of triumph, a reward for surviving the chaos of fame. Behind velvet curtains, Deals are made and confidences exchanged. Pieces are customized for particular clients. A necklace for a film premiere, earrings for a forbidden rendezvous. Bvlgari is not just selling jewelry, it is selling transformation. The Roman elite take notice. Jet-setters and aristocrats mingle with movie stars in the boutique's mirrored halls. Even exiled royalty and socialites slip inside, looking for talismans. A single Bvlgari piece becomes a ticket to a new world, where ancient lineage and modern celebrity blend without apology. The Bvlgaris understand the subtle codes. They know which stones will flatter which complexions, which metals catch the light at midnight banquets. Their reputation for discretion and spectacle grows with each legend who leaves the store, box in hand. The shop itself becomes a destination. Tourists peer through the windows, hoping for a glimpse of glamour. Inside, the lighting is flattering, the air heavy with anticipation. There are no hurried sales pitches, no displays of desperation. Bvlgari's confidence is palpable, almost intimidating. If you belong, you know it. If you don't, you dream that someday you might. Yet the heart of this golden age isn't just celebrity. It is invention, restless, fearless, and uniquely Roman. Constantino Bvlgari, ever the visionary, pushes his designers to break the rules. He wants pieces that feel ancient and modern at once. Inspiration comes from Roman mosaics, from Baroque churches, from the city's wild gardens. Cabochon-cut gemstones, a shape with no facets, all soft curves, become a Bvlgari hallmark. These stones glow differently, less fiery, more mysterious. They feel personal, like secret worlds worn close to the skin. Then comes the serpenti. It slithers into the Bvlgari imagination quietly at first, then explodes into icon status. The serpent has been a symbol of transformation and immortality since antiquity. Bvlgari's version is unlike anything seen before. Gold coils wrap around the wrist, flexible and hypnotic. Eyes of emerald or diamond glitter with secrets. Some serpenti watches hide tiny clock faces in the serpent's mouth. Others are pure ornament, meant to mesmerize. The serpenti is more than a motif, it's a revelation. It becomes a favorite of Elizabeth Taylor, who wears it backstage at Cleopatra and on nights when the world is watching. On screen and off, the serpent coils around arms, necks, and headlines. Soon, every major city wants a Bvlgari serpenti. Imitators appear, but none can match the original's seductive confidence. The design captures a mood, Rome reborn, ancient and daring, forever ready to surprise. As the 1960s progress, Bvlgari's energy grows bolder. The boutique hosts private showings for international clients. New collections mix ancient coins, carved coral, and even unconventional materials. The boundaries between high jewelry and art begin to blur. Every detail is considered, each piece a character in a larger story. Bvlgari sends designers to study antique jewelry in museums. They come home with ideas that blend centuries into something startlingly new. Rome itself is changing. Streets echo with the sound of vespers and laughter. Glamour becomes less exclusive, more democratic, even as the jewels remain unattainable to most. The Bvlgaris watch carefully from behind the counter. They know that every golden era eventually surrenders to time. For now, they ride the wave, trusting their instincts and the city's ancient rhythms. Yet beneath the surface, a new tension begins to build. The world is shrinking, news spreads faster, trends are born and die in a single season. International boutiques beckon. New York, Paris, Monte Carlo, names that once seemed distant are now within reach. Success on Via dei Condotti is no longer enough. The next step must be bigger, riskier. Inside the family, the younger generation is restless. Paolo, Nicola, and Gianni Bvlgari watch the glamour unfold, but they dream of new horizons. They see opportunity far beyond Rome. They debate late into the night about expansion, about protecting their heritage, about how to stay true to Bvlgari's soul while navigating a world that won't stop changing. Their father's generation still guards tradition fiercely, but the call of the future is impossible to ignore. By the late 1960s, the old certainty is gone. The city still dazzles, but winds of change are rising. The Bvlgari brothers prepare to step forward, each bringing unique ambitions and anxieties. Old stories linger in the polished showcases, tales of crowns, romance, and rebellion. But new chapters are waiting to be written, and the stakes have never felt higher. Bvlgari's golden age leaves behind more than gossip columns and sparkling jewels. It creates a myth, the idea that boldness and beauty can change destinies. But what happens when the legend outgrows the city that made it? The answer, as always, lies just over the horizon, shimmering and uncertain. Chapter 6: Paolo, the heir with a vision. Paolo Bvlgari stands at a window above Via dei Condotti. The city is restless beneath him, but his mind races even faster. Tradition pulses through his veins, but he feels the urgency of change. Rome is no longer the center of the world. Wealth, power, and influence are shifting. He has watched his family's house become synonymous with luxury. He has seen legends walk through their doors, leaving echoes of laughter and the scent of expensive perfume. But Paolo is not content. He sees the risks of complacency everywhere. Old ways may comfort, but they do not guarantee survival. He spends hours in the workshop, studying gemstones under harsh lamps. He listens to silversmiths, designers, and clerks, yet his thoughts are always somewhere else. New York, Tokyo, strange cities glittering on the horizon. The international boutiques that once seemed unattainable now feel urgent. Paolo knows the world is changing, and Bvlgari cannot afford to be left behind. He does not want to abandon family tradition. He wants to reinvent it. He wants to make Bvlgari a name that means excellence everywhere, not only in Rome. His vision is daring: new stores in distant capitals, new collections that fuse Italian style with global inspiration. He dreams of collaborations with artists and architects. He wants to show the world what Roman boldness really looks like. Not everyone in the family is convinced. His cousins, Nicola and Gianni, support him in principle but worry about the risks. Expansion means investment. It means ceding control to faraway markets and unfamiliar tastes. Some elders quietly grumble, fearing the house could lose its soul in the pursuit of scale. Paolo doesn't flinch. He is willing to take on responsibility and even blame if that's what the future demands. At the heart of Paolo's vision sits one powerful idea: Bvlgari must not follow trends, it must set them. The house's heritage is not a chain, it's a foundation to build higher still. The world's elite are hungry for fresh experiences and bolder statements. The 1970s are a time of upheaval, a time when old rules are rewritten daily. Jewelry, Paolo argues, should be no different. He meets with designers and challenges them to experiment. Why not use color the way painters do? Why not combine ancient motifs with radical shapes? The cabochon gemstones and the Serpenti collection are only the beginning. Under Paolo's leadership, Bvlgari jewelry becomes bigger, brighter, and more unapologetically Roman. The boldness turns heads. The international press takes notice. Exhibition openings in New York buzz with excitement. Parisian editors write glowing profiles. Celebrities wear Bvlgari on red carpets from Berlin to Los Angeles. Paolo watches this with satisfaction, but never with complacency. Every triumph is only the start of another challenge. Inside the company, Paolo's drive for innovation is both admired and resented. Some see him as a pioneer. Others fear he is gambling with a legacy built over generations. Tension grows in boardrooms and family dinners alike. The balance between past and future has never felt so precarious. Paolo is not an easy leader. He sets high standards and is quick to intervene when details disappoint him. He demands not only technical excellence, but imagination. He wants every piece to tell a story, every collection to push the limits. Some designers thrive in this environment, and feel inspired. Others burn out or quietly step aside. The expansion is breathtaking. Bvlgari boutiques open in Geneva, Monte Carlo, and Paris. New York becomes a crucial outpost, a bridge to American luxury, a test of Rome's influence abroad. Each new store is designed to feel like an embassy of Roman style. Paolo obsesses over every detail, from marble floors to the angle of display cases. He is always moving, always traveling. He courts celebrities, magazine editors, and royalty. At gala openings, he circulates with a cool, attentive gaze. He is rarely photographed laughing. He prefers to listen, to observe, to plot the next move before anyone else has seen the board. For Paolo, modernizing Bvlgari is not just about business. It is about honoring his heritage by refusing to let it ossify. The family name, once a mark of Greek silverwork, is now shorthand for luxury in dozens of languages. But every step forward brings new challenges. Not all are external. As Bvlgari conquers new markets, old anxieties return. Some family members question whether the original spirit still burns inside the brand. There are disagreements in strategy meetings, sometimes splitting along generational lines. Should Bvlgari double down on innovation or protect the essence of what made the house famous? Paolo pushes for boldness. Not everyone follows willingly. Gianni, his cousin, is brilliant and meticulous. He sometimes questions Paolo's appetite for risk, preferring a slower, steadier approach. Nicola, often the diplomat, tries to mediate but feels the strain. The three cousins, who once shared childhood secrets under Roman cypress trees, now debate matters of global finance and creative direction. Emotions, pride, jealousy, ambition smolder beneath every discussion. Meanwhile, Rome watches. So do the world's luxury buyers, ever more fickle and demanding. A single misstep could cost millions, but Paolo refuses to retreat into caution. He believes that audacity, not timidity, will safeguard Bvlgari's future. In the late evenings, Paolo walks through the deserted flagship. The marble floors echo under his steps. He pauses before a case filled with new designs, jewels unlike anything his ancestors could have imagined. He wonders if they would approve or if they would admonish him for his choices. Yet the world outside is changing at a pace no one can control. As the 1980s draw near, Bvlgari stands on a knife's edge. Its influence has never been wider. Its family ties have never felt more fragile. Paolo's vision has propelled the company into new heights, but at a cost. The corridors of power inside Bvlgari are alive with whispers. Some question whether Paolo's ambition will ultimately save or splinter the house. Others quietly admire his unshakable confidence, even as they prepare their own countermoves. Through the glass of the boutique, the lights of Rome glitter in the distance. Paolo weighs legacy against progress, memory against ambition. His decisions will shape not only Bvlgari, but his family's fate. The next chapter will be written not in gold or gemstones, but in the language of trust and betrayal. All empires expand until the center cannot hold. For Bvlgari, that moment is approaching. Paolo senses it, like a storm on the horizon, beautiful, terrifying, and utterly unstoppable. Chapter 7: Nicola, the reluctant diplomat. In the Bvlgari family, two brothers circle each other like wary lions. But there is a third figure, quieter, but just as essential. Nicola Bvlgari never sought the spotlight. He is not driven by Paolo's hunger for reinvention, nor animated by Gianni's sharp intellect. Instead, he operates in the space between. Among Romans, there is a word for someone like Nicola, mediator. The mediator. He is the one who listens when tempers flare, who smooths over wounds before they can scar. Nicola inherited his father's patience and his grandfather's caution. For years, that made him indispensable. He moves through the workshops with a measured pace, pausing to greet artisans by name. They appreciate his respect for tradition. When he inspects a newly finished necklace, he handles it with the care of a curator. He knows every step of its creation. For Nicola, each jewel is not just a product, but a promise, one the family must keep to its legacy and to itself. But as the 1980s begin, the Bvlgari family is changing. The pace of business accelerates. Decisions that once took months now must be made in days. New markets beckon, but each expansion brings risk. What once was a single store in Rome is now an empire stretching from New York to Tokyo. Paolo pushes for bolder designs and rapid growth. He courts the international press with radiant confidence. He wants Bvlgari to compete not just in Italy, but on the world stage. Gianni, meanwhile, worries about the cost. He believes the Bvlgari name must remain synonymous with restraint and heritage. He fears that too much innovation will dilute the brand's DNA. Caught between them is Nicola. At times, he feels like the rope in a never-ending tug-of-war. When Paolo proposes an ambitious campaign, it is Nicola who translates his vision for the craftsmen. When Gianni raises objections, Nicola listens, asking the questions others are too intimidated to voice. For years, this balance holds. In family meetings, Nicola's voice is calm, never rising above a measured cadence. He sifts through arguments, looks for common ground, and always reminds his brothers of the legacy they share. In private, he absorbs the stress. He cannot escape the feeling that their bond is fraying, one thread at a time. At night, Nicola often returns to the original shop on Via dei Condotti. The air smells faintly of polish and velvet. He remembers stories his grandfather told him as a boy, how the family arrived in Rome with nothing but skill and hope. For a while, these memories sustain him. One evening, the three brothers meet in the office above the flagship store. The city's golden light drifts in through tall windows. The marble walls seem to glow. Paolo is animated, gesturing at mock-ups of a new advertising campaign. Gianni sits stiffly, arms crossed, lips thin. Nicola shifts his gaze between them. He tries to mediate, to explain Paolo's thinking to Gianni and vice versa. But for the first time, he senses his words are not enough. Paolo wants to push into Asia, arguing that the future lies in new markets. Gianni counters with figures, warnings about overextending. Nicola suggests compromise, but neither brother yields. The meeting ends abruptly. The door closes with a sound heavier than any slam. The following weeks bring little relief. Suppliers demand clarity. Retail partners push for more daring collections. Each decision seems to widen the gulf between Paolo and Gianni. Nicola spends more time walking the corridors alone. He tries to find solace in the work itself. He reviews sketches, visits the workshops, and attends to the daily crises that always arise in a family business. But tension has a way of seeping into every corner. Whispers ripple through the staff. Some align with Paolo, eager for change. Others side with Gianni, fearing what they might lose. On Sunday afternoons, Nicola visits his mother. Over espresso, she asks about the company. He assures her, as gently as he can, that things are under control, but inside he is less certain. He feels a growing sense of responsibility. If the family breaks apart, he will be the one blamed. He wonders if the role of the peacemaker is a blessing or a curse. He is haunted by the possibility that his efforts are only delaying the inevitable. Still, he persists. He arranges dinners, hoping that food and wine might soften old resentments. He invites his brothers to private tour of the archives. Sometimes, the old camaraderie returns. They laugh at childhood memories, recall their father's stern advice. But inevitably, the conversation turns to business. The room chills. The press begins to speculate about tensions inside Bvlgari. Rumors swirl in fashion circles. Is the family losing control? Will Bvlgari remain Italian or become just another global brand? Nicola reads the articles with a heavy heart. He knows such questions are dangerous. One morning, a trusted employee brings him bad news. A key artisan has received an offer from a rival house. The departure would be a blow, not just to production, but to morale. Nicola recognizes this as another symptom of the discord at the top. When leaders argue, the whole company feels unstable. He invites the artisan for coffee and listens to her concerns. In the quiet of the cafe, he tries to reassure her. He promises that Bvlgari's spirit will endure even as the family struggles. She agrees to stay for now. Despite his efforts, the first cracks begin to show openly. In a board meeting, Paolo interrupts Gianni's presentation. Voices rise. Nicola attempts to intervene, but his words go unheard. Other directors shift uneasily in their seats. The old sense of unity is gone. That night, Nicola writes a letter to each brother. He urges them to remember what their grandfather sacrificed, what their father built. He asks them to put the house above themselves, but he knows, deep down, that words alone may not heal what has been wounded for years. In the days that follow, communication between Paolo and Gianni becomes terse and formal. Decisions are delayed or contested. Nicola finds himself mediating not just between two siblings, but between two visions for Bvlgari's soul. He wonders if it is possible for a family to stay united when ambition and caution pull them in opposite directions. He wonders what will be left if the bond snaps completely. One afternoon, the rain drums steadily on the windows of Via dei Condotti. Nicola stands alone, watching the traffic below. He realizes that the house of Bvlgari, so long a fortress, has become an arena. Silence settles over the showroom, heavy and uncertain. Outside, the world continues to rush past. Inside, a single question remains: when brothers become rivals, who loses the most? Chapter 8: Gianni's Revolt, Breaking the Family Pact. Gianni Bvlgari sits alone, long after midnight, surrounded by sketches and old family letters. On his desk lies a single sheet of paper. It's blank, except for his name at the top. He stares at it, pen in hand. The room is quiet, except for the distant hum of Rome outside. He barely notices the city anymore. For years, Gianni has carried his own vision for Bvlgari. He sees a future not just built on tradition, but on boldness, on risk. He wants to push the boundaries of design, brand, and business. Yet each proposal he brings to the table collides with resistance. He feels trapped between two worlds. The family legacy sits heavily on his shoulders, but ambition burns inside him. He remembers childhood evenings with his grandfather, hearing stories of Epirus and the first shop in Rome. Those memories are sacred, but Gianni has never wanted to simply repeat the past. He wants something more. The problem is, so do his brothers, but they disagree on what more should look like. Tension simmers during every strategy meeting. Paolo argues for expansion, but with caution. Nicola insists on protecting the core, the old codes, the family's soul. Gianni listens, then counters with ideas that sound reckless to their ears. He proposes new lines, new markets, even a different approach to advertising. His brothers shake their heads. The boardroom becomes a battleground. Outside those walls, Gianni watches the world change. New luxury brands are rising. Old icons are fading. He worries Bvlgari is standing still while the rest of the industry surges forward. At night, he lies awake, running numbers, sketching designs, wondering if anyone else sees what he sees. The pressure mounts as the 90s begin. The jewelry business is flourishing, but the sense of direction is lost. Employees whisper about the rifts at the top. Investors grow restless. Gianni feels isolated even when surrounded by family. He tries again and again to break through. He writes long memos full of plans and data. He flies to New York to study competitors. He returns with ideas only to find them dismissed or watered down. Paolo and Nicola think he's impatient, too willing to gamble with the Bvlgari name. Gianni thinks they're clinging to a past that cannot return. Some days he wonders if they are all right. Other days he is certain he is. The pressure finds its way into every part of his life. He grows distant from friends. He skips family dinners, avoids informal gatherings. Even Rome, the city of his youth, feels less like home. The familiar streets are now reminders of everything he risks losing. One evening, his mother asks him simply, "Are you happy?" Gianni cannot answer. He changes the subject. That night, he writes another letter, this one to himself. It's never sent. Instead, it fills pages of a notebook with doubts and dreams. The business limps forward, decisions made by compromise or not made at all. The company runs on momentum and reputation, not unity. The cracks are visible to anyone who looks closely enough. Gianni becomes increasingly convinced that a bold break is necessary. He considers launching his own brand, one free of constraints. The thought fills him with dread and excitement in equal measure. Leaving Bvlgari would mean severing more than business ties. It would mean stepping into the unknown. He discusses his growing frustration with a close friend, someone outside the family. The friend listens quietly, then asks, "What do you owe to a legacy that doesn't let you breathe?" The question lingers, echoing in his mind for days. In private, Gianni works on new concepts. He imagines watches that challenge Swiss dominance. He sketches jewelry that abandons symmetry and tradition. Each piece is daring, a promise to himself. He shares some with trusted artisans. The response is cautious but hopeful. His brothers notice the change. Nicola asks if he's planning to leave. Gianni shrugs. Paolo warns him that the family pact is sacred. Gianni nods but says little. The air grows heavy at every meeting. The silence between the three deepens. Spring brings a final confrontation. The board meets in Via dei Condotti, sunlight spilling through ornate windows. Gianni lays out his vision one last time. The discussion is tense. Voices rise, then fall. In the end, nothing is resolved. Afterward, Gianni takes a quiet walk through the city. He passes the old shop, the place where it all began for his grandfather. He stands in front of the bronze plaque, runs his fingers over the letters. For a moment, he wants to turn back, to find a way to make it work. But he knows, deep down, that the pact has already broken. The family is united only in name. What remains is a shell. Later that week, Gianni calls a meeting with his brothers. He speaks calmly, but without apology. He tells them he cannot stay. He will leave the company, effective immediately. Paolo is stunned. Nicola tries to persuade him to reconsider. Gianni listens, but his mind is made up. The decision is announced quietly, without fanfare. The press learns of it soon after. Headlines speculate about rifts and betrayals. Insiders whisper about what really happened behind closed doors. Employees look to Nicola and Paolo for reassurance, but the atmosphere is fragile. Gianni's departure is met with relief by some, grief by others. For the first time in generations, the Bvlgari family does not stand as one. The business carries on, but the energy has shifted. Something fundamental has fractured. Gianni spends the first days of his new life in a small apartment, surrounded by notebooks and prototypes. He is free, but uncertain. There are moments when he feels the weight of loss more than the thrill of possibility. He launches his own projects, but the Bvlgari name stays with him. It is both a shadow and a badge. The city of Rome, too, seems changed, familiar but not quite the same. Back at Via dei Condotti, Nicola and Paolo reorganize the business. They close ranks, determined to protect what remains. The company takes cautious steps into new ventures, but the spirit of daring, the wild edge that Gianni brought, is gone. The luxury world watches closely. Rivals sense an opportunity. Longtime clients express concern, wondering if Bvlgari's magic can survive this rupture. Inside the family, conversations grow quieter. Weddings, holidays, celebrations happen with a certain restraint. The story of Bvlgari, once a tale of unity and ambition, now carries a note of melancholy. For Gianni, the cost of freedom is clear. He has left the house his grandfather built, the legacy his father protected. In return, he has gained himself, at least the self he always imagined. He walks the city at dusk, past fountains and ruins, past the ghosts of old arguments. He wonders if there was another way, but the die is cast. As the summer of 1993 draws to a close, Bvlgari stands on the threshold of a new era. The family pact is broken. The future will be written by those who remain, if they can agree on what story to tell. Sometimes, the greatest losses are the ones that no one else can see. Chapter 9: The Fall of the House of Bvlgari. The years after Gianni's exit are not triumphant. They are tense, measured, and haunted by uncertainty. The Bvlgari name remains, but its sense of invincibility has faded. The brand looks outward, seeking new lifelines. For the first time since its founding, the idea of change is not a creative thrill, but a survival tactic. Nicola and Paolo steer the company forward. They are careful, almost cautious in every decision. The headlines focus on new projects, watches, perfumes, leather goods. Yet beneath the surface, the mood is wary. The world is changing, so is luxury. No one is sure what Bvlgari should become. There are still glimpses of the old brilliance. A watch line catches the attention of collectors. A new fragrance sparks hope. But this is not the era of bold risks and sweeping reinvention. It is an era of consolidation, of holding on to what remains. Competitors grow stronger. Cartier, Tiffany, and new names from the East all circle Rome, sensing an opening. Some longtime clients notice the difference. The stores are as elegant as ever, but the air has shifted. Discreet conversations hint at unease. Is Bvlgari still the house of daring color and Roman glamour, or has it become just another global brand, shaped by market trends and boardroom caution? Inside the family, the loss of unity is palpable. Cousins see each other less often. The sense of mission, once shared and unquestioned, feels fractured. The younger generation watches from the sidelines. They inherit the name, but not the power. By the late 1990s, pressure mounts. The luxury market is consolidating. LVMH, Richemont, and Kering are becoming giants, absorbing iconic names. Family businesses, no matter how storied, struggle to compete. Bvlgari faces a choice: defend its independence and risk stagnation, or seek shelter in a larger empire. Paolo and Nicola debate the options. There are meetings behind closed doors, tense exchanges, and sudden silences. The shadow of Gianni's departure lingers, a warning of what happens when pride outweighs pragmatism. Outside, advisors urge bold action. Investors are restless. The old dream of a family dynasty no longer seems possible. Bvlgari's foray into new ventures continues. The launch of a luxury hotel in Milan, licensing deals, cross-brand collaborations. Some moves pay off, others are met with indifference. Each step further blurs the borders between tradition and adaptation. The jewelry remains exquisite, handcrafted, luminous, unmistakably Roman. But even the stones feel heavier now, as if carrying the memory of what has been lost. The flagship store on Via dei Condotti stands unchanged, but the world beyond its doors is in constant motion. In boardrooms and private meetings, the subject of a sale moves from rumor to reality. The numbers are impossible to ignore. Global competition is fierce, and consumer tastes shift by the season. For the first time, the founder's descendants openly discuss surrendering control. The approach from LVMH is both flattering and unsettling. Here is the world's largest luxury group, home to Louis Vuitton, Dior, and Dom Perignon, offering rescue and a reckoning. The offer is staggering: billions of euros, a promise of growth, and the preservation of the brand's heritage. But the price is high. The family will cede power. Conflicting emotions rise to the surface: relief, anger, nostalgia, regret. For some, there is comfort in the idea that Bvlgari will live on, protected by an empire. For others, it feels like the final act of a tragedy that began years before. The months leading up to the sale are marked by tension. Advisors move between Rome and Paris. Lawyers draft documents late into the night. Each signature feels like a funeral and a rebirth, both at once. There are no dramatic public scenes, no grand gestures or defiant speeches. Instead, the process is clinical, businesslike, stripped of sentiment. The old world of family dinners and whispered promises is gone. In its place, balance sheets, forecasts, and international conference calls. On the day of the signing, Rome is cool and grey. The boardroom is filled with familiar faces and strangers in tailored suits. The Bvlgari family members sit together, but the mood is distant. The patriarchs who once built the house are gone. Their heirs prepare to relinquish the keys. The final contract slides across the table. Hands tremble, almost imperceptibly, as the signatures are made. With each pen stroke, a century of dreams and rivalries is sealed into history. The company, once the fiercely guarded jewel of a Greek family in Rome, now belongs to a French empire. The transition is both ordinary and monumental. Reporters outside snap photos. Analysts publish their takes. The luxury world registers the shift, but the city of Rome carries on. Tourists line up at Via dei Condotti, unaware of the drama playing out just a few streets away. Inside the family, the news is met with silence. Some members privately toast the end of an era. Others grieve in their own way, retreating into memories of childhood spent among gemstones and sketches. The younger generation scrolls through the headlines, wondering what this inheritance will mean when it is finally theirs. Bvlgari's artisans return to their benches. The designs continue, the gems are set, the windows dressed for another season. On the surface, little changes. The brand's Roman glamour remains, its identity intact. But the soul of the house has shifted, passed from blood to business. For Paolo and Nicola, the moment is bittersweet. They have secured Bvlgari's future, but lost the thing that made it uniquely theirs. The burden of stewardship is lifted, and yet an emptiness lingers. The family has weathered wars, scandals, and fierce competition. In the end, it is the logic of the market that claims the house. The deal is finalized in 2011, sealed with a toast that tastes of both victory and surrender. Bvlgari joins the ranks of brands whose legends now belong to shareholders, not heirs. The family's role becomes ceremonial, a name on a plaque, a guest at a gala. That night, the streets of Rome shine as they always have. The city remembers everything, even as its stories are rewritten. Inside the old flagship, a new future is quietly taking shape. Somewhere, a single question hangs in the air. What is the price of immortality, and who gets to collect? Chapter 10: Legacy in Stone, Bvlgari Beyond the Family. Rome moves at its own pace. Stones that have witnessed empires still catch the afternoon sun. In the heart of the city, Bvlgari's flagship glows, its windows displaying brilliance forged far beyond precious metal. The Vlgaris are gone from the boardroom, their signatures replaced by those of distant shareholders. Yet their presence lingers in the shapes of necklaces, the curves of bracelets, the audacity of color. Under LVMH, Bvlgari is no longer a family secret. Now it is a statement writ large on the global stage. Success is measured not only in carats, but in quarterly reports and ambitious expansion. The brand appears in airports and fashion capitals, in advertisements that promise a taste of Roman splendor. Its stores now number in the hundreds, from Tokyo to Los Angeles. The clientele is new, the stakes higher, the rules different. And yet step into Via dei Condotti and the air feels unchanged. Marble counters gleam under careful lighting. Artisans still set stones by hand, whispering stories in every setting. In the silence between footsteps, the city outside seems to pause, waiting for some hidden drama to unfold. The Bvlgari family's touch survives in details outsiders rarely notice. Their passion for colored gems, once dismissed as reckless, is now the brand's signature. The serpenti motif still coils through every collection, bold and hypnotic, a symbol of power and transformation. Even the way Bvlgari cuts its stones, a dome here, a cabochon there, echoes Giorgio's original defiance of Parisian taste. It is legacy not as nostalgia, but as provocation. LVMH brought new ambition. Luxury, they believe, is scale, more stores, more products, more headlines. Hotels now bear the Bvlgari name, their lobbies scented with custom perfumes. Watches combine Swiss engineering with Italian bravado. The jewelry grows ever more daring, sometimes monumental, as if in dialogue with Rome's own ruins. But the soul of the house is more elusive. Some say it vanished with the last true Vlgaris. Others insist it survives, encoded in the DNA of design, impossible to erase. A Roman jeweler who started as a Greek refugee, Soterios built a business on reinvention. That instinct, adapt to survive, but never forget who you are, remains the organizing principle. Collectors chase vintage pieces, hunting for the era when Bvlgari was still a family affair. Auction houses set records for necklaces once worn by film stars, their provenance adding zeros to the price. For a new generation, these jewels become talismans, objects heavy with the memory of a vanished world. Each stone is a fragment of a lost Rome, a city seen through the eyes of outsiders who learn to make it their own. In board meetings, executives debate the meaning of luxury. Is it exclusivity or ubiquity? Is it tradition or perpetual reinvention? Bvlgari stands at this crossroads. The old store is a pilgrimage site, its history both blessing and burden. Every new campaign references the past, even as it tries to escape it. Employees speak with pride about the brand's heritage. They describe a culture of audacity where young designers are encouraged to break rules. At the same time, some whisper about what's been lost, decisions once made over family dinners now dictated by distant strategists. The tension is never resolved. That is the paradox of inheritance. To keep something alive, you must allow it to change. LVMH's stewardship is, by any metric, a triumph. Profits soar, and Bvlgari's influence spreads across continents. The company funds restoration projects in Rome, polishing the city that gave it a stage. In branding, as in jewelry, every detail is calculated to evoke a sense of timelessness. Still, in private moments, some wonder what Soterios would make of it all. A Greek silversmith's name now attached to skyscrapers and luxury resorts. The Bvlgari family, freed from the burdens of empire, recede into private life. They are guardians of memory rather than power. Occasionally, a press release features a family member at a gala, smiling for the cameras. The real business of Bvlgari, however, now belongs to a different dynasty, the multinational, the impersonal, the eternal. And what are the jewels themselves? They are more than objects. Each carries a story of survival, invention, rivalry, and loss. In a world obsessed with novelty, Bvlgari's greatest strength is its refusal to forget where it began. The stones remember, the architecture remembers, Rome remembers. For those who seek meaning beyond the price tag, Bvlgari remains a paradox. True luxury is not just gold or diamonds, but the sense of having outlasted time. It is the feeling of walking into a room and knowing the past is still present, alive in the flash of a sapphire or the weight of a bracelet. To wear Bvlgari is to inherit not just beauty, but a history of boldness, a reminder that the greatest conquests begin with risk. And risk, in the end, is what made Bvlgari immortal. The family surrendered control not out of failure, but out of conviction that the brand could survive on its own terms. Their last act was an act of faith in the name, in the legend, in the city itself. Somewhere in Rome, a young couple peers into the old flagship window. They do not know the whole story, but they sense its gravity. The city presses close, silent, and watchful. Inside, a craftsman wipes his hands, turns out the lights, and locks the door. To conquer Rome, sometimes, means letting it go. The Bvlgaris learned this truth in the language of gems and sacrifice. What endures is not ownership, but the courage to build something that outlasts even your own ambition. Legacy, like stone, survives because it changes form. In the end, Bvlgari's triumph was never about holding power. It was about learning to let go and trusting that beauty, once set in motion, will find its own way home.